Okay, real talk. HR should not be someone's random side hustle at your company. Compliance, benefits, payroll, employee support. It's a lot. TriNet helps take that off your plate with full service HR solutions designed for small and mid-sized businesses. So your leaders can focus on growing your company instead of Googling labor laws at midnight. TriNet's been doing this for 30 plus years, which means they actually know what they're doing and your people feel the difference. Check them out at TriNet.com. We are back with episode 4 of the AI Readiness Gap, produced in partnership with TriNet, and this is the finale. Today, we're zooming all the way out and asking, what do HR leaders need to be building right now so we're not caught flat-footed 2 years from now? The stat that's driving this episode is 55% of organizations expect AI tool experience to be their most in-demand skill within just 2 years. 2 years. That's all we got. And honestly, the timeline is shorter than most people think. We've spent this whole series talking about the gap between where organizations are and where they need to be. And now we're getting into what it actually takes to close it, the technical stuff and the deeply human skills that are going to matter now more than ever as AI takes over more of the work. My guests today are DeAnn Alcantar and Kelly Pacatte, and I could not have picked two better humans to close this series out with. DeAnn Alcantar is a learning and development manager at TriNet, where she is an agile instructional designer, creating learning experiences that help organizations build cultures of belonging with a clear vision for the future. And Kelly Pacatte is a seasoned HR compliance leader with over 20 years of experience advising organizations on complex employment law, regulatory compliance, and workforce risk management. DeAnn and Kelly, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having us. We're
Thank
really
you.
excited to be here.
What an intro. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. I don't know if either of you know this. I started my career in L&D. So any conversations around how do we actually teach humans, I light up and I get to nerd out in such a way that I don't think the audience normally gets to see me do.
Nice.
No. Okay. So I read the stat, 55% of organizations expect AI tool experience to be their most in-demand skill within 2 years. And 2 years is not really a long time. When you see that 55% of organizations expect that, what is your gut reaction?
Yeah, so I'm going to hop in here. It's true. There is a large percentage of HR and business leaders that do expect some level of AI proficiency. And as I've listened to some of your podcasts, you've already mentioned it's likely that employees and candidates are already experimenting with AI. And that's good news. So answering questions about where AI is changing work or is about to change work in ways that matter to the organization is going to help expedite and support AI skills. Now, there are a few areas that we should be thinking about as an organization in terms of how AI may be beneficial. Those include things like creating and editing content. It could be editing client communications, stakeholder communications, analyzing operations or financial data. It could be things like supporting customer service decisions, creating internal documentation, assisting our managers with planning, feedback, or reporting. Now, determining what part of these areas should be automated, what parts stay human, what parts could go wrong, these are important considerations as well.
Yeah, those are so many good examples of where to use AI. Honestly, like the 55% of organizations expecting it to be their most in-demand skill, I was not surprised when I read that stat. Like every now and then I'm like, ooh, juicy. This stat, I was like, yeah, this is life. Like we ask about AI in all of our interviews. We're talking to our candidates about how we leverage it internally. I have even been coaching some HR people where they're saying like, oh, well, what if my organization doesn't let me use it? How do I talk about using AI? And I always just say you have to go out there and like experiment and explore yourself because it is the skill that everyone is going to want a candidate to have at this point.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, it's tough. You just got to go out there and play with the things and figure out where you fall in all of this. And there's so many brilliant use cases for HR in particular that I think HR people could have a really fun time leveraging AI and could help them really rethink a lot of the processes that take us so much time that you mentioned, DeAnn. Like documentation is the bane of my existence. And when you mentioned that, I was like, that was my favorite use case for AI, documentation, because I don't want to write it anymore.
Right.
It's tiresome and like you don't know everything. So it's always just documentation's always been a really interesting one. this whole series with TriNet, I have been talking about this gap between where organizations are and where they need to be. Do you all think 2 years is enough time to close that gap?
Yes and no. When I first got asked to be on this podcast, it was interesting because I was thinking, okay, well, when did I first learn about AI? And I actually first learned about AI back in 2022. So 4 years ago. And it was actually not in a business case, it was education. So I heard about it that kids were using this new product to write papers. So it was like the new Spark Notes, right? Back when I was in school, we were, oh, did you read the Spark Notes version or the real version of the book, right? And so I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna like totally transform education, like what my kids are learning and how they're doing school. And so I learned about it like from that perspective. So if you
Yeah.
think about those kids 4 years ago, they were in high school, they were in college doing this. They've been using it for 4 years. So we've got them entering the workforce. So I do think in 2 years, in most cases, organizations will have adopted the most basic use of AI. And I mean, we can re-listen to this podcast in 2 years and see if I'm right. But I mean, I mean, I really think so because I think this easy entry stuff, like fine tuning an email or taking notes, like DX said, or like just some basic functions
Yeah.
these kids have already been using, right, that are going to enter the workforce. And I think we'll have enough time too for us folks that have already been in the workforce to have like fine tuned our prompting skills. So we'll have adopted this low hanging fruit, right? And these are tasks too that are easily shared peer to peer, and they're most likely specific to a department or group. I really also love the idea in your podcast I think you did a couple episodes ago as part of this series where you talked about time blocking AI. I think if organizations adopt that, it'll help them close that gap as well. But what I really think the issue is going to be, and where the gap might not fully be closed, is this mindset shift.
Mm,
So there's going to be some broader items that leaders are really going to have to dig in for organizational change. That's going to be organizationally dependent. So it goes beyond the easy stuff and it goes to problem identification, asking the right questions, having the right people at the table. So it's less of a training gap and more of a, do we have the right people? Are we looking at the right problems? Do we have those people at the table to make something tricky easier? So
the mindset shift that you mentioned is like such a juicy topic too, because if you think about how when I talk about AI entering the workplace, I often talk about what it was like when email entered the workplace, even though I was not in the workplace when that happened. But I remember how email changed my life as like a teenager and high school. And I'm thinking about AI kind of in the same way, where we really have to wrap our heads around things could look radically different. And I'm not sure that mindset shift it's not going to be easy, and I'm also like not sure a lot of people have even made that shift yet. And so I think like our job as HR is really to get in and to help people understand, how do you shift your thinking around the way that you always used to do something might not be the way that you do it in the future. Like I love that saying, what got us here isn't going to get us there. That is the mindset shift that like I think we need to make about AI. Is what we've experienced to date will look different in the future, but it is hard. We're like humans and we don't really like change.
I'm so glad you said humans because that is one of my main goals is making sure that our employees are focused on clarifying the human role for
Yeah.
using AI, making sure our leaders have some say in what is happening and determining decisions and determining tasks and determining capabilities that actually need to change because of AI.
Yeah.
And that is when organizations can help their employees best understand how to use AI effectively in their jobs, which can then in turn help close any perceived gaps. We want to make sure though that we don't lose the human role.
Yeah. It's so funny. I feel like our name is human resources, even though I go by chief people officer, people ops has always been my thing. But like, we cannot forget about the people who are experiencing this shift. Like, this is at its core, AI transformation is just like a change management thing. And part of change management is the humans. And it's brought up a lot of really interesting conversations about, what is it going to look like for the human skills. So beyond the technical stuff, like, okay, prompting, building agents, beyond that, what are the deeply human skills that are going to matter more in the future if AI does end up taking over more of the work?
So I know DeAnn has done a lot of research on this, but I will just jump in and say what I'm hearing from business leaders, particularly from their HR people, is they are looking for people who are adaptable, can adapt to change,
Mm,
and are curious and questioning.
yeah.
They have that mindset to constantly ask the questions, maybe do the problem solving, dig a little bit deeper. Those would be the primary things I'm seeing. I don't know about you, DeAnn.
Yeah, a lot of research in this area because I'm very passionate about the human qualities of AI. So, because AI handles information and execution, means that we as humans are responsible for understanding people. So, empathy is a
Mm,
top human skill. We need to understand emotional states, be aware of interpersonal history, be aware of power dynamics, timing, sensitivity, important human skills there. And as you mentioned, Kelly, asking the right questions and knowing how to phrase prompts to obtain the right AI outputs. Then, once we have AI outputs, evaluating those outputs. So essential because if we over rely on AI without using proper judgment, that could lead to declining decision quality. So our employees really need to practice in determining what is a good AI output versus a bad one. They need to receive feedback about what is good and bad so that
Yeah.
they can make sure they know the difference. Ethics is another important human skill. Since, we think about AI and what it is capable of doing, it does not own the consequences of
mm,
decisions.
Oh,
Without ethical oversight, AI can contribute to biases. It can produce unfair or inconsistent outcomes. It can make decisions that lack transparency. So ethics is an important human skill. Making sense of information, I think Kelly mentioned that as well. Just making sure that you're understanding what the information is sharing with you. And AI can really do the things like generating recommendations, content, I would say even some decisions, but it cannot own outcomes. It cannot face consequences. It cannot repair trust. So as human beings, we still must be accountable to shape things like hiring decisions, influence performance feedback, I would say guide customer interactions and contribute to the impacts of operational choices. The last thing I want to mention here in terms of a human skill with AI is creativity
mm,
because AI can generate options,
mhm.
but it can't originate meaning or intent or create truly novel direction the way that human beings can.
I love that you bring that up whenever I talk about like the skills that I think will redefine HR leaders of the future. I always talk about like curiosity and creativity are two of them. Because like AI is basically everything that's already existed to date. So if you were going to it for a truly original idea, it might not give you a truly original idea. And that's like kind of the beautiful and interesting thing about human beings is we'll come up with something that's never existed before. Small business owners did not start their company so they could spend their Sundays drowning in HR paperwork. Let TriNet handle all that stuff. They can do payroll, benefits, compliance, the whole 9 yards. So business owners can get back to the work that matters most to them. Go check them out at trinet.com. And so I love that you brought up creativity. I feel like I'm a deeply creative person. I have been my whole life. I guess you kind of have to be to write a newsletter and create content, but I also love thinking about it in the scope of our work because I think that could redefine someone's leadership style completely if they lead with like the curiosity and the creativity. And it like makes me think a lot about what the HR function should evolve and look like. So, what do you all think the HR function itself will look like in 2 years? How does the work transformation actually change the role of the people leading it?
That's a good question. And I think I will, again, this will be another question that I'll really enjoy listening in 2 years to see if I was right.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think I've been doing HR for a really long time. So 20 years I've been doing this. And I think when I first started in HR, you had the HRIS function and then you had everything else, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, "Oh, the tech stuff, just send it over there. And they'll deal with it." And so I think now, we're really asked. I mean, this is obvious, but we're actually really there's a need for HR folks to really understand the tech side. And of course, I'm going to say compliance because that's my passion. I'm sorry, I'm the compliance nerd, but most likely, HR folks are adopting some type of vendor type AI function, right? We're not on the back end creating our own AI stuff, maybe, but most likely not. So we're looking at vendors. We're really going to need to understand where the data is coming from, what that looks like, because that's what our people are using. And so it's really important to understand that. And we can't just not understand it and let others take the risk or the fall, right? We really need to understand that data. We need to know, we didn't need to know how the ship was built, just that it was built. But now I think there's more of a call of action for us to actually be there building the ship. And that's not just because of compliance. It's because I've seen some really cool AI features where you can have real-time data on employee engagement. But so if you're going to use that data, you need to understand it. How is it coming? Is it factual? Things like that. So HR leaders are really going to have to be at both sides of the table, not just understanding the people side, but have a good knowledge of the technical side as well.
I love that answer. Dan, I feel like you probably are going to be like, and I have researched this. Let me tell you.
Well, speaking from the perspective of learning and development, I can
Yeah.
see how AI is definitely shaping instructional design in the sense that we're more focused on creating engagement in the learning than we
Mm,
ever have before, and how to create that just in time type of experience in kind of shorter bursts of information for our learners. And so from my perspective, we have to really get down to the basics of instructional design and create those engaging interactive experiences for people.
I love that. We learn so differently as adults. People think that like the way we learned growing up is the way you learn as an adult. And you're just like, it's a rude awakening when you're like, oh, I can't be lectured at for 8 hours and then retain all the things that I was lectured at for 8 hours. But that I love that we're rethinking how do we actually make learning an interactive, engaging experience because it should be fun. I lead like if you're a Gallup strengths person, my number one strength is learner. It's always somewhere in my top five. I'm always trying to learn something new. So I love the idea of that. We're gonna definitely try to make learning way more interactive. And then if
Yeah,
I were
we used to be able to do that in the classroom, but we
yeah.
are teaching online, we're teaching virtually, and so it's a whole different dynamic.
I know it's so weird to interact with people over sometimes. Okay, so like I was a very big extroverted person before the pandemic. Then I went fully remote and I've been fully remote since 2020. And now sometimes I find it hard to like meet people in real life where I'm like so awkward. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? And like I don't know how to do anything around them, right? I think about L&D like that too. Like we're so used to like putting everyone in a room. We're all going to learn together. We're all going to do this project together. We're all going to walk out understanding the learning outcomes. And it's like in the virtual or even hybrid world, it's completely different. And
It
how we
is, and it's really better in some ways because we can tailor the experience based on the needs of the person. Whereas when you're in a group, you
all,
kind of learn with the group, whereas we all have different needs. So being able to kind of tailor that experience is really great.
I have a really interesting theory to throw at you all. So, Kelly, you started talking about how, HR was like segmented. It still is to this day. Like sometimes you have your HRBPs, you have your compliance people, you have payroll, you have talent management, L&D, and all the functions have kind of been like separate, but all under the HR umbrella. I have this theory that maybe in the future, like HR teams will get much smaller because AI will help with a lot of things. And then everyone will possibly become a sort of generalist where they will have to know everything that falls into kind of all the buckets. But I've been really struggling with that thought because I'm like, how would anyone be an expert at all those things? I oversee all those things and I don't even think I'm the expert in all of them. What do you all think about that idea that we might just become generalists in the future rather than specialists on anything?
I mean, I think it'll just depend on your organization, your role.
Yeah.
Honestly, I will say that my role, even though I identify as a compliance expert, I I really have had to become more of a generalist, and that part of what I do is I'm trying to predict what's next.
Yeah.
So, seeing what's going to happen in the workforce, what do we need from a compliance perspective to keep, the underlying basis of our clients protected with any new regulation. So that kind of has transformed me to a generalist. I would think, DeAnn, some of your instructional things that you've done here recently, I mean, you have to know it all, I think. I mean, you're definitely
We
a
do.
SME and instructional design,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We do. We have to be able to create virtual instructor led and then online web based, but then we also have to manage everything else, the
Yeah.
consulting, the needs analysis, making sure the communication is right for people, making sure that if a person is having trouble registering, we are now LMS experts as well. So everything.
I feel that. Someone was like, "Can you reset my password?" And I was like, "I'm tech support. Like,
Yes,
job right now."
exactly.
I'll never forget my direct report was out. I have one person on my team, and she does like mostly HR ops and recruiting, and she was out, and my CEO had to call me to reset his password, and I was like, should I have this power? Or should this be something I do? But it is really interesting because I do think HR is one of those functions that is so interdisciplinary that even if you fall under L&D, engagement, whatever, recruiting, you still have to have a really good understanding of everything else. And I think that's so different from other functions in a job. Like marketing is not expected to understand a lot of the other things that in the same way that HR is expected to understand everything across the business. It's such a fascinating thing. I think HR, this is for me the most exciting time ever to be in HR. Like I was in HR in 2020 when I was teaching people how to wash their hands during COVID, which is just such a weird fever dream of a time. Now seems like the most interesting, engaging, like I'm so curious. So it's like feels like the most creative time we can be as a function to like really define what do we want to be in the future.
Oh,
And
totally.
it's so interesting. But that mindset shift, Kelly, that you mentioned earlier is so key. So if you could leave every HR leader listening to this series with one mindset shift going into the next 2 years, what would it be?
I mean, I would say, like, first of all, like, we're all looking to AI, and you're amongst friends. I think we're all we're all being pressed by leadership to dig into AI adoption. We've all been asked to save money. It's hard. So
Yep.
I think it's really important for HR people to learn both within their organization and outside of their organization, because we're really going to be in a situation where we're asking the right questions, trying to solve the right problems. So I guess that was a long-winded answer to really say our mindset needs to be focused on identifying problems and then evaluating, what AI solution is out there to solve it, right? Or if there is a solution, right? But start to identify the problems that you want solved.
Yeah. I love that. Dan, what's the mindset shift?
Yeah, the mindset shift is just be okay with experimenting, learn from one another. We have special groups here at TriNet that you can become involved in to learn more about AI and what it means to your work and what you're doing every day. So, this is a great way for us to just stay open minded, be okay with experimentation, learn and grow from the experience.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting because Adam Grant, in his book Think Again, did a bunch of research on leaders that when things are chaotic in times of chaos, leaders go into one of four default modes. And the four modes that he listed were the preacher, the prosecutor, the politician, and the scientist. And out of all of them, the scientist was the one that is going to rise to the occasion and really experiment and learn more. Whereas the other three are trying to convince you that their method is right. The scientist is trying to go prove what it is that's wrong and how to fix it. And so I read that recently and I was like, that's actually so helpful to like think like a scientist. And I love that you said experiment because we should all be experimenting. We're all figuring it out. So like the one mindset shift that I would say for HR people is like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just like go out there and try it and see, as long as you're not doing anything damaging to your employees, damaging trust or morale or anything, you can experiment with things that maybe will change up what you think about AI and the future. So with that, we're at our through line question. It's the question I've been asking throughout the series to every single person. What's one thing you would tell an HR leader who's feeling behind on AI right now?
I mean, I feel behind. So
Kelly.
I think it's like we all feel that way. I think we all feel that way and it's important to recognize that we feel that way. And but then what are we going to do about it? We're going to ask the right questions. We're going to, just we'll figure it out because that's what we do, right? So I think that that's the most important thing is it's okay to feel overwhelmed because I think we all are. But I love your excitement about this. I'm excited too. So be overwhelmed, but be excited.
Yeah, that's great advice. DeAnn?
I would definitely encourage organizations to stop trying to catch up on AI. Instead, start getting close to where work is actually changing. So lots of questions we can be thinking about. Where is AI already affecting decisions? Where is it impacting expectations or risk in the organization? Which managers or teams are already experimenting with AI? Where does better judgment matter more now than it did a year ago? Just keep thinking through these things to help your employees learn what they can to effectively utilize it in their roles.
I love that. I don't answer the through line question, but I just have to say both your answers are spot on. I'm like overwhelmed, excited, and you have to keep asking your questions and figuring out what does that mean for your organization in particular. Like I think back to that curiosity point, you can never ask enough questions. Like just keep asking what it is and why and how it's going to impact your organization. Kelly and DeAnn, this was so much fun. Thank you for joining me and letting me nerd out with you about stats and data. For people looking to get in touch with either one of you, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so just hit me up there.
I'm as well. I'm happy
Everyone.
to respond.
Yeah. It's becoming like honestly a recurring bit in my podcast because everyone says LinkedIn. So I'm like, I don't even know if I should keep asking this question, but now it's just fun to ask. So thank you for people who want to get in touch with you. I'm sure they'll look you up on LinkedIn. And thank you again for giving me time today to geek out and talk to you about AI and really set the stage for what HR leaders can do to be better prepared in the future. So thank you.
And thank you for the work you do.
Yes, this was fun.